that's the really cool thing about what Roz has put on the table. It really gives Oliver an opportunity to examine in totality what he has been able to accomplish in the 2.5 years that he's been back in Starling City. And his opinion of what they've done, or at least of his work, is not very high. So that makes the idea of being the person that commands the League of Assassins in any way that he sees fit, makes it really appealing. But ultimately, the game that Roz plays with Oliver throughout the course of the remainder of our episodes this year really actually does force him to really look within himself. And, you know, we see a very different Oliver, a more introspective, a more vulnerable, and in a lot of ways defeated version of the character as we move towards the last portion of our episodes, which is fun because, again, you can only shut people out for so long. It's been almost 3 seasons. It's been like 70 episodes of Don't Talk to Me. And, you know, you can only stare broodingly out a window so long.
My question is, The Flash has an incredibly special family. I wanted to know if you guys were going to be introducing any characters such as Wally West or Bart Allen onto the series anytime in the future.
Yeah, that's our hope. So, we've already been picked up for a second year, so... I think if we were going to do something like that, we would do it next year.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So Air and the Flash just did their big Paley Fest panels. So this is going to be an explainer for the stuff that they talked about, like the really important stuff about, you know, the forthcoming season as well as the next couple of episodes. They showed a couple clips. They haven't made them available online as of the, you know, me taping this video. When they do, I'll do separate breakdown videos for those. So right off the bat, they said a lot of things that we already know. Things are going to get way darker before they get any better. Something really bad is going to happen to one of the characters in episode 19. Someone might quit the team, someone might die, or someone's actually definitely going to die. Mark Guggenheim did confirm a character would be dying, but we don't know if it's going to be Roy, or if it's going to be Quentin, or if it's going to be Maceo's son. Somebody is going to die. That's why I did that Batman Death in the Family story explainer. I'll add a link for that in the description if you guys didn't see it. John Barrowman said a lot of really interesting things about Merlin. Like, his biggest regret is killing the wrong man. Remember, when he found out that Brick was the man that killed his wife, he thought it was someone else. In the flashbacks, they showed him killing that person. He said that's his biggest regret, that he killed the wrong person. So if he could go back in time, what would he do differently? He didn't answer it literally, but they will deal with that in the next couple of episodes. He did confirm that Merlin really loves Thea and is doing what he thinks is best to bring her closer to him. So it's completely genuine. He's not trying to be evil about keeping her close. I think that's kind of funny because obviously what he's doing is really horrible, brainwashing her to kill one of their best friends. Will actually explained that's going to be a really big part of her character for the rest of the season. We kind of got a teaser for that in the last episode where she asked Nyssa to kill her, to take vengeance. Obviously, that's not going to happen because we saw her getting her speedy mask. Like they said, it's just going to get way darker for all the characters. Oliver, I thought this was interesting. Stephen Amell said that Oliver is really at his weakest right now. He's almost enfeebled. I know that makes a lot of people mad. Like, they want Oliver to be really strong. He's like the backbone of the team. But he made this funny comment where he said, you can only stare out a window broodingly for so long. And then like the showrunners just joked, they're like, I don't know, we feel like you got a lot more brooding left in you. They confirmed new people would learn Oliver's identity. And they actually said the writers in the writer's room totally love that. Trying to explain why no one can figure out his secret identity when he's standing right in front of them is a big trope of the superhero genre. So the more people that find out, the happier the writers are. Stephen Amell said something interesting about Ra's al Ghul's offer to take over the league. He said that it's not so much an offer as it is a demand. So they're going to address that in the next episode. Like, literally next week, we'll find out what that means. Most of you probably figured it out. If Oliver turns him down, it's going to be dire consequences for Team Arrow. If you've ever seen the Batman the Animated Series episode they did with Ra's al Ghul and Batman, Demon's Quest, it's kind of like that. So now I'm just going to transition into Flash stuff. I feel like just, in terms of hard specific details, the Flash offered up more stuff during their panel than Arrow did. So it was a little bit more fun if you're looking for new information about the show. The sizzle reel that they showed was actually from episode 18, the All-Star Team-Up episode. The tone is going to play a lot like the last time Felicity crossed over. It'll be mostly humorous, but Felicity's going to get a brand new villain to fight against, like a new arch nemesis. It'll be Emily Kinney from The Walking Dead. They gender bent a villain from the comics. She's going to have like an army of small bees, so Felicity's going to have like a hackathon, like a hacker war with her. Anytime they want to make a villain for Felicity, like they want to bring someone on for her to fight, they either have to be really smart or they have to have like really advanced tech. I know a lot of people are wondering about Arrow Season 4. There's been a lot of speculation that Damien Dark from the comics might be the villain, just because they said it's going to be someone that comes from the world of tech. It's going to be a genius character. So it'll be someone that Felicity will be able to help fight more. She's not much use against the League of Assassins. There's not much she can do when they get into a sword fight. So the solution to bring Felicity back, into the Arrow Cave, back with the core team, is to bring a villain that plays more to her strengths. We can talk about Season 4 in the future, though. They didn't really spill a lot of Season 4 details. Team Flash made a whole bunch of jokes about Harrison Wells being the Reverse Flash. Tom Cavanaugh said that, there are really two ways that you can play villains. And, obviously he's doing it the really interesting way. You can do like the mustache twirling villain, like, they're like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Or you can play someone that's a little more emotionally tied to their characters, which is why when the other characters find out who Harrison Wells is, it's going to be much more rewarding for us as an audience. They did say that, because Season 1 has been so focused on developing Barry Allen as the Flash character, Season 2 is where they might spend some more time developing Caitlin and Cisco, a la Powers. I know everyone is asking when they're going to get their powers from the comics. They didn't confirm anything. They didn't say that they would be getting powers, but I think that they're going to spend more time diving deep into Cisco and Caitlin in Season 2. They made a lot of jokes about feeding the metahumans. Everyone always asks questions about, like, where do they go to the bathroom? How do they eat? Like, what happens with all these prisoners that they capture? Greg Berlanti said that they would definitely address the ramifications of Team Flash playing judge, jury, and executioner to all these people. I think that just means prison break. I mean, they're just all going to get out at the end of the season and cause a bunch of chaos. Daniel Pennebaker joked that they feed him a lot of belly burgers. A lot of like big belly burgers, but someone on the team does pull duty every once in a while to like feed them. They rotate that job. Really cool Easter egg Tom Cavanaugh offered up. So everyone always wonders like what all the bumps like the braille in his secret room are, like the Gideon braille. He said their production designer just saw the material and put it in there, but it said it might say like we validate parking in braille or something like that. If you read braille, which I do not, you can try to figure out if it actually says anything. I know a lot of you guys always ask about Wally West coming on the show. They basically said last year, like before Season 1 ever aired, that they had planned to do Wally West in the future. They never said when. I think Season 2 is kind of likely, maybe like deep in Season 2, the way they introduced Firestorm. Because they've changed a lot about the West family from the comics, what would probably happen is it would be a cousin. It would be like Iris's cousin. That would just make him a little bit more like the New 52 Wally West. And speaking of their family, they actually said that they would explain what happened to Joe's wife, Iris's mother, in a future episode. As for Eddie Thawne, I know everyone's always wondering about him because they kind of waited to develop his character. Like he's just now getting a lot of good story. The actor said that we would all be, really surprised where his storyline is going. I am betting that is not going to be true. I think there are a couple clear theories that I spelled out in a lot of my videos across this season. He is tied to the Reverse Flash lineage. He very clearly is one of their progenitors. As to whether or not he actually becomes a Reverse Flash, that remains to be seen. There will be a second Reverse Flash. Mark my words. But they won't really explain that till we get into time travel. There was only one thing that bugged me about the press conference. Candice Patton said this thing about her character. She called herself like a Lois Lane type character, which she is. I mean, she's like a stand-in for Lois Lane. She was trying to compare Iris not knowing who Barry was, knowing that he's the Flash, to Lois Lane not knowing who Superman is. The reason that bugged me is because in Man of Steel, Lois Lane totally knows who Clark Kent is. She's like, yeah, you are that guy that's flying around helping people. She totally tracks him down. It's not like Superman reveals himself to her. She's like, yeah, I totally knew who you were. There was no mystery. I have a feeling it's going to go down the same way with Iris. Like, she's going to be investigating Star Labs. She'll catch Barry Allen in a Flash type moment and then be like, WTF, everyone's been lying to me. They also said they would be tackling a very notable storyline from the comics that they have not done already. I think that they were talking about Flashpoint. I mean, that's just like one of the clear time travel stories that they could tell. Grant Gustin teased it earlier, but he had just been speculating. So here's my big question for you guys. If they're going to tackle a really quote-unquote big storyline from the Flash comics, do you think it's going to be Flashpoint Paradox, or do you think it's going to be some other big storyline? Remember, these are like the biggest of the big Flash storylines, and there's not that many of those. In reference to all that time travel stuff, they did say that the emotional aspects, like the way time travel affects characters' relationships with each other, is going to be more interesting than just the flat out spectacle of time travel. Time travel's badass, but I'm really interested to see how Eddie Thawne gets roped into this Reverse Flash lore. I think, in terms of character relationships, that's where it gets really interesting. So as soon as they post those new Flash and Arrow clips, I'll totally do breakdown videos. Be sure to subscribe to get those. If you haven't seen it already, I did a breakdown of the next 3 episodes. They actually posted an earlier trailer, so you can click here to watch that. Mark Hamill as the Trickster, that's all I'll say. It's totally amazing. And you can click here to catch up on Arrow. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tonight. Now let's all do the thing.